Let the winter surf near La Push, Washington, and a distant foghorn beyond the misted pines guide you into a quieter night. This is a calm coastal sleep story for adults, told in a soft, steady voice with slow, unhurried pacing. Set everything down and settle in. The last light on the dashboard fades as you turn off the engine and sit for a moment in the dark. Out beyond the windshield, the night is a soft blur of rain and distant water. You can't see the ocean yet, but you can hear it, a steady, low rush that comes and goes like someone breathing in their sleep. Somewhere farther out, a horn sounds now and then, long and low, spreading through the mist and pine trees until it feels like part of the weather itself. You open the door and cool air slips in, damp and clean. It smells of wet cedar, salt, and the faint metal tang of the sea. The gravel under your feet crunches once, then settles. A small cabin stands ahead, dark wooden siding against the darker sky, porch light glowing in a quiet, yellow circle. The rain has turned the steps slick and dark, and the roof glistens where the porch light touches the shingles. You bring your bag to the porch and pause with your hand on the rail. The wood is cool beneath your fingers, a little rough where the grain has lifted over time. You can feel your shoulders still holding the shape of the day, emails, errands, conversations that are already starting to loosen. The ocean hushes in the background, patient and unhurried. Take a slow breath in through your nose, deep enough that your belly lifts just a little. Hold it for an easy heartbeat, and then let it slip out through your mouth, as if you're fogging a window. Nothing fancy, just air moving in and out, and the feeling that you don't have to do much more than that right now. You step forward and unlock the door. The latch turns with a soft click, and the hinges give the gentlest murmur as you push inside. Warm, dry air folds around you, a mix of old wood, a hint of soap from freshly washed dishes, and the lingering, faint sweetness of something that was cooked here another night and has now sunk into the walls. Inside, the cabin is simple. A small lamp on a side table casts a warm, steady circle over a worn couch and a low wooden table. Beyond that, a compact kitchen waits with its neat line of cabinets, a small stove, and a sink under the window that looks toward the unseen shore. The lights are low enough that your eyes relax almost immediately. No glare. You set your bag down near the door, then your keys, then the day itself, piece by piece, in an invisible pile beside them, jacket unzipped, shoes eased off and nudged to the side. Your feet meet a rug that is just a bit thicker than it looks. The fibers are cool at first, then slowly take the edge off the chill that has followed you in. Near the back wall, a small heater hums in a polite, steady way, not loud enough to demand attention. There's a soft click now and then, as it cycles, working to keep this small space a few steps warmer than the night outside. A faint draft brushes your ankles and reminds you that the world beyond the walls is damp and around the low 40s. Cool enough to keep you grateful for the roof and the light. You move farther into the room and feel your shoulders drop another fraction of an inch. The constant, gentle rush of the shore filters in through the glass and the gaps you can't see, blending with the hiss of rain on the roof. The sounds layer together into something level and comforting, no sudden changes, no sharp edges, just the quiet insistence of water and air doing what they always do. You walk over to the main window and rest your fingertips on the sill. Outside, only the nearest shapes are visible. A sloping deck, dark with rain, the faint suggestion of a railing, and beyond that, a blur where the edge of land drops away toward the beach. The pines stand in suggestion more than detail, dark, tall, and veiled in mist. Every so often, the distant horn rolls across the water again, slow and low, as if someone is reminding the night that everything is still in its place. The glass under your palm is cool, a little fogged at the edges where indoor warmth meets the damp air outside. The contrast helps your mind understand where you are now, in a small circle of light, with the rest of the world softened into shapes and sound. Let your next breath come in gently through your nose and out through your nose again. As you exhale, imagine the muscles at the back of your neck loosening, the weight along your spine settling into your hips and feet. There's nothing for you to solve out here, nothing you need to fix before you can rest. You turn from the window and sink down onto the couch. The cushions give a quiet sigh as they take your weight. The room feels just full enough: a lamp, a table, a few shelves, the hum of the heater, the steady murmur of waves and rain outside. No screens glowing, no alerts, just the sense that tonight exists for the simple act of being here, in this cabin near the water, while winter leans gently against the door and the shoreline keeps an easy, unhurried rhythm. As you let your hands rest, one on your lap and one along the cushion, a feeling of having finally arrived begins to spread through your chest. It doesn't have to be all the way. Not yet, just enough to know that you're off the road, inside, and allowed to be as quiet as the night outside the windows. The room slowly arranges itself in your awareness as your eyes adjust to the low light. The lamp beside the couch has a simple shade, cream-colored and slightly textured, throwing a warm oval on the wall behind it. In that glow, the grain of the wood paneling shows softly vertical lines of cedar toned by years of rain and salt in the air. Knots and swirls catch the light here and there, like rings on the cross-section of a tree turned sideways. The floor beneath the rug is solid and faintly uneven, boards that shift just enough under your weight to remind you you're in a real place, built by real hands, not a perfectly smooth new construction. When you stretch your toes along the edge of the rug, they find bare wood that is cool and faintly smooth from many sets of feet passing over it. Overhead, the ceiling is low enough to feel close but not crowded, beams running across like quiet lines drawn with a steady pen. A faint shadow from each beam falls down the far wall, banding it gently in alternating dark and light. The shadows move only when the fire of the lamp flickers or when a car passes far in the distance and briefly shifts the balance of light outside. The heater in the corner continues its modest hum. It's not a grand fireplace, nothing that roars or demands attention, just a compact unit with a small grill radiating a gentle heat. When it cycles off for a moment, you notice the slight difference in sound. The cabin settles into almost complete stillness inside, and the quiet becomes large enough that you can hear finer details from beyond the walls. Rain patters steadily on the shingles overhead, a soft, intricate pattern that never quite repeats. Sometimes it's a light tapping, as if the drops arrive one at a time. Sometimes a heavier run moves over the roof in a small rush, the way fingers might run briefly across a drum and then lift. You can hear the water finding its way into the gutters, a gentle, hollow trickle at the edge of the eaves. Beyond the rain, the ocean continues its slow, deep conversation with the shore. The break of the waves is not crashing or sharp tonight. It's a low, cushioned sound, muffled again by the distance and the wet air. A swell rises, moves in, and folds itself against sand and rocks, then slides back, leaving a hush in its place. Each set blends into the next, until the whole shoreline feels like one long breath that never quite stops. From time to time, the horn out at sea sounds again. It doesn't startle, it simply appears, a low note stretched out over several seconds, calm and sure of itself. It arrives from somewhere beyond the line you can see, passes through the trees, touches the glass of the window, and drifts on. In the space after it fades, the shore and the rain seem even quieter by comparison. You glance toward the kitchen area. A small counter runs beneath the window, with a sink in the middle and a few neatly stacked dishes drying on a rack. The faucet has a straightforward, brushed metal look, a kind of everyday sturdiness that feels right for this place. Above it, the window is dark, reflecting the interior back at you more than it reveals the outside. You can just make out a faint line where the deck rail catches some of the porch light, and beyond that, the suggestion of trees and empty air. The cabinets are a light wood, edges slightly rounded from use. Simple metal pulls catch a bit of the lamplight. A small refrigerator hums softly against the wall, its sound blending with the heaters. On the counter, a plain ceramic bowl holds a few pieces of fruit, their rounded shapes muted in the warm light. Nearby sits a kettle, waiting, its handle angled toward the stove as if it has been used often and set down the same way each time. Along the wall by the door, a short row of hooks holds a spare rain jacket and a folded umbrella, both bearing the faint sheen that fabric gets after countless encounters with drizzle and spray. Beneath them, a rubber mat waits for shoes, already marked by a thin border of dried droplets where other wet boots and sneakers have rested. The air in the cabin has its own layers. There's the dry warmth near the heater, the gentle coolness that lingers by the window panes, and a thread of salt that works its way through everything, reminding you that the sea is never far. When you breathe in, your nose catches a hint of something woody, maybe the paneling, maybe the deck outside still drying from earlier rains, maybe the trees pressing in around the clearing. You rise from the couch and walk a few slow steps toward the window, letting your socks glide over the rug and then meet the smooth boards. Each footfall is a small, muted sound, barely more than a whisper. The lamp's glow follows you part of the way, then gives over to the dimmer light near the glass. Up close, the window reflects your interior world more clearly. You can see the shape of the lamp behind you, the corner of the couch, and the soft outline of your own shoulders, loosened and a little lower than when you first came in. Just beyond that reflection, the night waits dark, damp, patient. The rain beads on the glass in small, luminous points, sliding down in tiny paths that merge and separate, tracing routes you could watch for as long as your eyes want to stay open. Outside, the pines stand in a quiet, dark cluster along the edge of the property, their tops lost in mist. You can't see individual needles, just the broader silhouettes and the way they lean slightly toward the water, as if drawn by its pull. Now and then, a breath of wind passes through them, enough to make a soft, collective rustle that is quickly swallowed by the shore's steady hush. Between the trees and the cabin, the deck holds a thin gleam of reflected light from the porch fixture. The boards are wet and dark, darker still where rain continues to fall through the air. Along the rail, droplets gather and fall at their own pace, small taps you might miss if you weren't so still. Inside, the light is steady and warm, drawing a clean line between out there and in here. Your fingertips rest lightly on the window frame, feeling the cool paint and the faint seam where wood meets glass. Behind you, the room waits quietly: couch, table, lamp, rug, a small, complete world, scaled perfectly for a single person to move slowly through. You take another easy breath and feel the difference between the air near the glass and the air in the center of the room. Out beyond the walls, a winter night along the coast goes on doing what it does. Waves folding in, rain falling, horn sounding at careful intervals. In here, the temperature is just enough to let you be comfortable without making you drowsy too quickly. It's the kind of in-between warmth that invites you to settle, to look around, to really see where you are. You step back from the window and return to the couch, letting the cushions accept your weight again. The cabin gathers around you in all its small details, the hum of appliances, the soft give of the rug, the faint click of the heater turning back on. Nothing is asking for your attention. Nothing needs to be done right away. This is the arrival night, the first gentle chapter of being here. Outside, the shoreline keeps its soft, rhythmic work. Inside, light, wood, and steady heat hold their own, and you sit in the middle of it all, wrapped in the simple, quiet fact of being under a roof, by the sea, with time to let everything slow down. You let yourself sit a little longer, feeling the way the couch holds you. The cushions give under your weight and then stop, just enough to keep you supported without pushing back. Fabric brushes the backs of your legs, soft and worn, with that slight drag of fibers that have been used and washed many times. Your hands rest where they land, one on your thigh, one along the cushion beside you. Under your palm, the weave of the upholstery is easy to feel, a small map of threads crossing and crossing again. Your fingers trace a slow line, not trying to get anywhere, just noticing how the material gives a little when you press and springs back when you lift your hand. Across your shoulders, your clothing sits a little differently now. The fabric that rode high when you were tense has eased, sliding down toward your upper arms. The weight of your sweater or shirt feels pleasantly familiar. Not tight, not restrictive, just a soft layer between you and the air. When you let your shoulders roll back the smallest amount, there's a moment where the muscles along your upper back quietly agree to let go. Your neck feels longer when you let your head tip back against the cushion and then settle again. The base of your skull finds a spot that fits, and you notice how the couch cradles that curve, how the padding gives enough that your jaw can soften. There's no need to hold your head up as if you're waiting for the next thing. The next thing can simply be this. Down at your feet, your socks meet the rug with a gentle, steady contact. The pile isn't deep, but it's thick enough that your toes can sink in just a little. When you move them, they slide against the strands, finding small pockets of warmth. The edge of the rug gives way to the cooler firmness of the wooden floor, and you can feel exactly where one surface ends and the other begins. You let one foot drift off the rug and come to rest on bare wood. The temperature change is immediate and clear, cool, but not biting. The floorboard is solid under your heel, the grain invisible to your eyes from here but present in the tiny shifts you feel when you rock your foot gently side to side. The difference between rug and wood becomes its own small, grounding fact. You rub your palms together once. Slowly, the skin against skin makes a soft, whispering sound, and a gentle warmth starts to bloom in your hands. The friction isn't much, but it's enough to remind you that you can make warmth, even in small ways. When you separate your hands again, the air against your palms feels just an inch warmer than it was. Your attention drifts to your breath without effort. Air moves in through your nose and leaves again, a quiet, private tide you don't have to manage. If you like, you can let the next inhalation be a touch deeper, filling the space behind your ribs. On the exhale, let it leave in its own time, as if you're quietly sighing out the last pieces of the day that tried to follow you here. The low hum of the heater in the corner reaches you through the cushion, a gentle vibration more than a sound. The fabric at your back grows subtly warmer the longer you sit, as if the heat is working its way through the room and finding you last. The warmth doesn't rush. It arrives at the pace of the night itself. Your gaze finds the kitchen area again, the small stove waiting under the window, kettle resting where you saw it earlier. The idea of something warm to hold in your hands begins to feel less like an option and more like a natural next step, not a task, not a chore, just a simple, small kindness you can extend to yourself. You ease forward on the couch, feeling the shift of weight from the back of your body to the front. The cushions release you with a barely audible sigh. As you stand, your feet plant more firmly on the rug and then the floor, your knees straightening, your hips aligning over your ankles. For a moment, you simply stand there, noticing how it feels to be upright in this quiet room, the soles of your feet anchoring you to this particular piece of earth. Your first step toward the kitchen is slow. The rug compresses under your weight, then you cross onto the bare floor again, where the smooth boards greet your socks with a cool, steady surface. One board gives a faint, polite creak, nothing sharp, just a soft acknowledgement that you are here. As you move, your hand glides along the back of the couch, fingertips catching on the seam where fabric meets frame. The texture changes as you reach the wooden arm, going from soft to smooth. The wood has been handled enough that some places are just slightly more polished than others, a quiet record of all the hands that have rested there before yours. When you reach the counter, your fingers brush the edge of it. The surface is cooler than the air, solid and reassuring. You reach for the kettle, your hand naturally finding its handle. The metal is at room temperature, neither cold nor warm. It fits comfortably in your grip, weight balanced, spout angled just so. You set the kettle aside for a moment and open a cabinet below the counter. The hinge gives a small murmur as the door swings out. Inside, you find a small saucepan and lift it free. The handle feels sturdy, familiar, with tiny ridges that keep your fingers from slipping. When you set it on the stovetop, it lands with a soft, sure sound. The refrigerator door opens with a gentle pull, a soft suction sound breaking, cool air drifting out. Inside, a glass bottle of apple cider waits on a shelf. When you take it in your hand, the glass is cool and smooth, faintly beaded from the chill. The weight of it in your palm is solid and comforting. You twist the cap. There's a small, rounded pop as the seal gives way, then a quiet whiff of sweetness that rises toward your nose. You pour the cider into the pan, watching the pale liquid pool and settle. The sound is a soft, steady stream, a brief addition to the room's gentle chorus. Turning the stove knob, you feel the faint detents under your fingertips as it moves. A click, then another, and the burner comes alive, a low, contained heat, whether as a glowing coil or a small circle of flame. You can sense the warmth starting almost immediately, even before the cider has time to change. You rest your palm lightly on the counter and lean in just enough to feel the warmth brush your front. The air near the stove is still mostly cool, but a thin layer of heat is beginning to gather, rising in a way your skin can detect even if your eyes can't yet see it. Soon, the first faint curls of steam rise from the pan. The scent of apple gains a little depth, picking up a hint of spice that must have been there all along, waiting to unfold with heat. You stir the liquid with a spoon, the metal slipping along the bottom in slow circles, tapping now and then with a soft, hollow note. When the cider is warm, not boiling, just comfortably hot, you take hold of the pan's handle with a folded cloth. The fabric bunches in your hand, thick and dependable, shielding your skin from the heat. The handle is warmer now, a gentle reminder to move with care. You angle the pan over a waiting mug. The ceramic feels solid in your other hand, cool at first but ready to change. The cider pours in a soft, steady ribbon, small swirls rising to the surface and disappearing again. A little steam lifts toward your face, brushing your cheeks and the bridge of your nose with soft warmth. You set the pan back on the stove and curl both hands around the mug. The warmth meets your palms instantly, soaking through to your fingers. It's not too hot, just right, the way a held warmth should be when you want to stay with it for a while. The handle presses against one thumb, the curve fitting neatly into the space between your fingers. Standing there in the kitchen, mug in hand, you feel the weight of it, the heat, the faint tack of glaze under your fingertips. Outside, the waves keep their low, distant rhythm. Inside, you have this simple, steady point of contact, a warm circle your hands can rest around as the night continues to soften at its own unhurried pace. With the mug cradled between your hands, you walk back toward the window. Each step is unhurried. The liquid inside shifts gently but never threatens to slosh over. You can feel that subtle movement through the ceramic, a small reminder that what you're carrying is warm and alive with its own motion. At the glass, you pause. The world beyond is still mostly a suggestion. Dark shapes of trees, the faint angle of the deck, the unseen slope down toward the beach. Rain threads down the pane in narrow, silvery lines, catching a bit of light before merging into the darker glass below. The shore makes its constant, cushioned sound, a winter surf that is more a deep hush than a crash. You lift the mug toward your face and take a slow sip. The cider touches your lips first, then your tongue, then your throat in a smooth, warming line. Heat spreads down into your chest, radiating outward into your ribs and shoulders, easing something you hadn't realized was still held. When you breathe out, the air leaving your mouth feels a little warmer, as if it's borrowed some of the cider's comfort on its way. Your eyes drift down to the windowsill. The paint is slightly worn along the edge where hands have rested, chipped in small places that show the wood underneath. Tiny rings mark where cups or candles once stood. A few small stones sit there already smooth, dark pebbles, a little scattered, as if they were placed down without much thought. They catch your attention in a quiet way, like an unfinished sentence waiting patiently for you to notice it. You set your mug on a nearby side table, making sure it rests squarely on a coaster. The soft thunk of ceramic meeting wood and cork is reassuring. Then you return to the sill and let your fingers hover just above the scattered stones. The thought of giving them a bit of order feels gentle and satisfying, like straightening a blanket before lying down. On the shelf beneath the window, a shallow wooden dish holds more stones, small, tide-worn pieces gathered from beaches like the one just beyond the darkness. You reach for the dish, the wood smooth under your hands where it's been handled often. Lifting it, you feel the faint, shifting weight of the stones inside, each one tapping softly against its neighbors. You bring the dish up to the sill and set it down. One by one, you choose a stone, feeling its particular shape before you put it in place. A flat, skipped stone shape rests nicely under your thumb, cool and velvety. You slide it to the far left, close to the frame. Another is round and slightly ridged, with a pale stripe crossing it. You set that one a little farther in. The sound of stone meeting painted wood is subtle, a tiny tick, almost more a feeling than a noise. You line the pieces up in a slow arc, some closer together, some leaving a touch of space between them. There's no strict pattern, just a soft sense of balance. Dark stones anchor the ends, lighter ones gather near the middle. As you reach for another piece from the dish, your fingers brush against something different. It's smoother than the stones, almost silky, with a coolness that feels particular, like water held in solid form. You close your hand around it and lift it out of the pile. Resting in your palm is a small piece of sea glass, worn down by time and tide. It Its color sits somewhere between pale green and blue, like shallow water over sand on a cloudy day. The edges are rounded, no sharp corners left, every side gently frosted. When you turn it, it catches the light from the lamp and the faint glow from outside, holding both at once. You rub your thumb along one face of the glass. The surface is just a bit matte, soft under your skin, almost like a pebble, but with a hint of the smoothness glass remembers. It feels like something that has traveled a long way to be as gentle as it is now. You set the sea glass near the center of the sill. Among the stones you've started to arrange, it stands out without trying, the only piece that lifts calmly into the lamplight, the only one that lets light pass through it instead of only bouncing off. Around it, the darker stones become a kind of frame, simple and understated. As you place the last few stones, you notice something else tucked just behind the frame of the window. A corner of cardstock peeks out, edges softened and a little curled. You slide it gently free and find a postcard, worn from time and handling. The front shows a lighthouse on a rocky point. The image faded enough that the colors have softened into each other. Off-white tower, muted red roof, gray sky merging into pale sea. The surface has a slight sheen where the ink still holds, but most of it feels velvety to the touch, like something that's been thumbed through more than once. You turn it over for a moment. On the back, a short message is written in looping, careful handwriting, the ink a little lighter now than it once was. You don't need to read every word. Just knowing that someone once took the time to choose this card, write on it, and send it out into the world is enough. You turn it face outward again and lean it gently against the inside of the frame, where it can look toward the dark line of the unseen coast. To keep it from slipping, you slide one of the small stones forward, nudging its weight up against the lower edge of the card. The stone has a faint notch that fits the cardboard's thickness just right, as if it's been used for this purpose before. Now the sill holds its quiet little arrangement, a line of stones, each with its own texture and tone, the soft, translucent sea glass near the center, and the postcard standing just behind, lighthouse watching over the imagined stretch of water beyond the glass. A small, simple ritual has taken shape without you needing to plan it. You pick up your mug again and take another careful sip. The cider has cooled just a bit, still warm enough to send comfort down your throat, but no longer as hot. The mug's sides are pleasantly warm, easy to hold. You let one hand rest around it while the other drifts to the windowsill, fingertips lightly touching the nearest stone. For a moment, nothing moves. The heater hums softly in the background. Outside, a wave rises and folds itself along the shore, its sound like fabric being slowly laid down on a table. Somewhere beyond the mist, the horn calls out a long, low note that travels through the rain and trees, brushes the cabin, and carries on. In the space after the sound fades, you become aware of a small clock on the wall, ticking at an unhurried pace. The ticks are soft, spaced just far enough apart that each one has room to arrive and then vanish. Time doesn't feel demanding here. It feels like another gentle rhythm, one more layer in the room's quiet arrangement. You let your gaze wander away from the window and follow the line of the wall. A narrow shelf holds a few paperback books and a folded throw blanket, its fibers thick and inviting. When you walk over and touch the blanket, the fabric is cool on the surface but promises warmth once unfolded. Your fingers sink into it slightly, enjoying the softness before you drape it back into place. Near the door, the hooks with the spare jacket and umbrella wait, fabric hanging in easy folds. You run your hand along one sleeve as you pass, feeling the smooth, slightly waxed surface meant to turn rain away. The texture contrasts with the softer cotton of your own clothing. Another small reminder that this place is set up for weather like tonight's. A short hallway leads to a bedroom, door standing slightly open. You nudge it wider with your fingertips and see a low bed made up with a simple quilt, its patterns muted by the lamplight spilling in from the main room. The quilt's surface looks gently textured, squares of fabric stitched together in calm, repeating shapes. You touch the edge with the back of your hand, feeling the slight give of the mattress underneath. You don't need to step all the way inside. Just knowing the room is there a quiet place waiting for you later is enough. You let the door drift mostly closed again, not latched, just resting easily on its frame. Returning to the main room, you trace your way along the wall with your fingertips, feeling the seams between panels, the occasional knot in the wood. The lamp by the couch casts its familiar glow, and the couch itself seems to be waiting patiently for you, cushions still holding the shape of where you sat before. You come back to the window once more. The small arrangement on the sill has settled into its place, stones aligned in a gentle curve, the sea glass catching a bit of lamplight and turning it into a soft, colored glow, the postcard standing steady behind them. Outside, the rain continues. The shore keeps its low, ongoing hush, and the horn sounds again in the distance, as measured and calm as a breath. Mug in hand, you stand there for another quiet moment, feeling the warmth in your fingers, the cool of the glass under your other hand, and the steady presence of the little scene you've just shaped. It doesn't have to mean anything more than what it is. A few small objects arranged with care, holding their own gentle watch at the window while the night moves slowly along the coast. You stand with the mug in your hand, looking at the little scene on the sill. The stones rest where you placed them, the small sea glass piece catching the lamplight, the worn postcard leaning calmly against the frame. For a moment, you think that might be enough, that the arrangement is finished. Then your eye catches a small cluster of pebbles still sitting in the shallow wooden dish, off to one side. A few are half hidden under others, their shapes and colors not yet part of the line along the glass. It feels gentle, not urgent, to bring them into the same quiet order. You set your mug down on the side table again, its warmth leaving a soft echo in your palms. Returning to the dish, you curl your fingers around it and lift. The small stones whisper against one another, a soft, dry rustle that barely rises above the hush of the shore. Holding the dish in one hand, you use the other to slide the first stone out with your fingertips. It's small and oval, darker on one side than the other, as if part of it spent longer in the shadow of a larger rock. You roll it between thumb and finger, feeling the way one side is just a little flatter. Then you place it gently at the far left end of the row, letting it nestle close to the frame. You reach for another. This one is a smooth, pale gray, with a faint white line circling it like a ring. Your thumb follows that line once, then again. You set it down a short distance from the first, leaving a tiny gap of painted wood between them. Little by little, a rhythm begins to appear. Stone, space, stone, space. The room seems to adjust around your slow work. The heater hums in the corner, content to keep the air at its comfortable, in-between warmth. The rain continues, its soft tap and slide across the roof. Each time you lift and place a stone, there's a small, steadying feeling, like adding one more gentle note to a song that doesn't have to end. You notice that some of the stones are darker, some lighter. Without needing to think about it, you start to let the deeper, Charcoal-colored pieces gather toward the ends of the row. The lighter stones find their way toward the center, near the sea glass and the postcard, as if the brightness belongs in the middle. You pause, dish in hand, and lean closer to the glass. Your breath leaves a faint mist where your face nears the window, then fades again. Outside, the night remains a soft blur of dark tree shapes and the invisible slope of sand, but the sense of the shoreline is strong in the steady hush of the waves and the occasional call of the horn. Inside, your fingertips keep their slow, careful pace. Some stones still lie in the dish, piled without pattern. You decide to bring them into the same gentle order. You set the dish on the sill itself, the wood under it firmly supporting the small weight. Then, with both hands free, you begin sorting. You gather the tiniest pebbles into one corner of the dish, their edges tapping lightly against each other. Slightly larger ones form another loose cluster. A few have streaks or speckles you like, so you set those aside, near the sea glass, without yet knowing exactly where they'll go. Your thumb pads grow faintly cool from the contact with so many smooth surfaces, but it's a clean, simple feeling, just skin meeting stone. Every piece holds a record of water and time, but you don't have to think about any of that. You only need to decide where each one can rest tonight. You start at the left again, working your way along the sill. A small, round pebble settles into a space that seemed made for it. A flatter piece slips in next, its long side aligned with the window frame. You begin to see a suggestion of gentle curves, as if the row itself is quietly flowing, echoing the shape of waves beyond the glass. Every so often, you step back half a pace and look at the line as a whole. It doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to impress anyone. It only needs to feel right to you, to carry a sense of ease when you glance at it later in the night. If one stone feels slightly out of place, you lift it and move it a little forward, backward, or sideways until something in your chest settles a bit more. The light from the lamp falls in a soft band across the sill, catching the tops of the stones and leaving their undersides in shadow. Some surfaces shine, some stay matte. The sea glass holds its pale, watery glow, and the postcard's lighthouse keeps its watch, a quiet figure in the background. You let them stay as they are, not needing to fuss with them. They have their spots. You realize there's a narrow stretch of sill extending toward the corner, where nothing has been placed yet. It seems to invite a different kind of arrangement, something even simpler. You choose 3 stones, one larger, 2 smaller. The larger one goes in the middle, the smaller ones flanking it with a bit of space on either side, a small trio. Its own little unit, standing just apart from the main line. When the dish is finally empty, you run your fingertips over the bottom, feeling the bare wood. No stray pebble remains hidden at the edges. You let the dish rest on the shelf below again, light now, ready to hold whatever may be gathered in some future walk along the shore. You lean your forearms on the windowsill and look at what you've made, a gentle curve of stone spreading across the base of the glass. A smaller cluster in the corner, the translucent sea glass piece glowing softly near the center, the faded postcard steady behind them. There is no grand design, no rigid pattern, only a quiet sense of balance. You breathe in, and the smell of the room comes to you, a hint of warm apple still lingering from the mug, a thread of salt from outside, the dry warmth of wood heated by the small unit in the corner. On the exhale, your body seems to settle another fraction of an inch, weight moving down through your arms, into your hands, into the sill itself. another long wave rolls in and folds itself along the shore. You can feel, more than hear, the distance it has traveled. Rain patters softly against the glass, tracing fresh tracks between the beads already sliding downward. Somewhere beyond the mist, the horn calls again, steady and low, as if confirming that everything is continuing at its own measured pace. You let your fingers rest lightly on the stones nearest you, not moving them now, just feeling their cool, solid presence. Each one is in its place, and for this moment, that's enough. The tiny order you've created doesn't change the larger world, but it gives your hands and your thoughts a quiet place to land. You lift your palms, press them together gently for a breath, then pick up your mug again. The cider inside has cooled somewhat, the ceramic warm but no longer hot. You take a small sip, feeling the familiar taste, softer now, less intense, like an echo of the first warmth. Glancing once more at the window, you see the whole scene, the arranged stones, the glass, the card, the night beyond. Your kindly little task has settled into the room, folded itself into the steady rhythm of rain and surf. There is nothing left to finish, nothing left to correct. Just a windowsill that holds its quiet order while you turn toward the rest of the evening. You carry the mug back to the couch and sit down, letting the cushions gather you in. The cooled cider is pleasant, but some part of you imagines the comfort of a fresh, warmer cup, made slowly, with the same care you gave the stones. The thought drifts in without urgency, like a suggestion from the room itself. You take a final sip from the mug in your hand, then set it on the side table. The faint ring of ceramic on wood is softened by the coaster beneath. Your fingers linger on the handle for a moment, feeling the curve, the way it fits under your knuckles, before you let go. When you stand, your body rises easily, no rush in the movement. Your feet find the rug again, then the bare boards. The boards give their tiny, familiar creaks as you walk toward the kitchen area, each one a quiet acknowledgement that you're crossing this small, familiar space. The kitchen waits in its gentle order, counters clear except for a few simple things, the kettle resting near the stove, a folded dish towel hanging from the oven handle, a small jar of wooden spoons in the corner. On the refrigerator door, a couple of plain magnets hold a handwritten note and a small calendar page, edges curling just a little. You take the mug to the sink and pour out what's left, listening to the soft, brief stream as it meets the basin and disappears. The ceramic feels a little cooler now in your hand. You turn the faucet and rinse the inside with warm water, your fingers circling the rim, then the bottom, following the curve the way the cider did earlier. The warmth on your skin is simple and good. When the mug is clean, you set it on the counter for a moment and reach for the small saucepan again. It waits where you left it, light in your hand, metal cool. You place it gently on the burner, the sound barely more than a soft tap. The bottle of cider sits on its shelf in the refrigerator, condensation faint along its sides. You open the door and let the cool air brush your face, a brief contrast to the room's warmth. The glass chills your fingers as you pull it out, solid and reassuring. You pour enough into the pan for a fresh cup, watching the liquid gather and settle. The pale surface shivers once and then becomes smooth. You set the bottle back, close the refrigerator, and return your attention to the stove. When you turn the burner knob, the small clicks come one after another, steady, familiar. A quiet whoosh or the glow of a heating element follows, and warmth begins to rise. The pan grows attentive under your hand. ready for the gentle work ahead. You stand close, not hovering, just present. The handle of the pan extends toward you, metal still cool at the far end. You rest your fingertips on the counter's edge instead, feeling its solid presence under your hands. Soon, thin wisps of steam appear, curling up in patient threads. The scent of apple begins to deepen, filling the small kitchen with a soft, comforting sweetness. There's a hint of spice, subtle but clear, like something remembered from other winters. It reaches you slowly, winding its way into your chest, loosening something there. You stir with a spoon, tracing lazy circles along the bottom of the pan. The metal glides with a gentle, hollow sound, the liquid following in sleepy swirls. There is no hurry. You watch the tiny movements, the way the surface rolls and smooths again, as if it were a miniature version of the water just beyond the cabin. The steam thickens slightly, rising with more body now, fogging the air just above the pan. It brushes your face, warm and damp, bringing the scent even closer. You close your eyes for a moment and inhale slowly through your nose, letting the aroma settle in, then exhale softly. The act of breathing becomes part of the ritual, as natural as the stirring. When the cider feels ready, not boiling, just deeply warm, you turn off the burner. The faint tick of cooling metal begins almost immediately, small sounds that match the gentle atmosphere around you. You bring the mug closer, fingers wrapping around its familiar curve. Its surface is room temperature for now, but that will change soon enough. With a careful hand protected by a folded cloth, you lift the pan and pour. The cider streams into the mug in a smooth ribbon, small ripples forming and disappearing on the surface. Steam billows up in a soft cloud, rising, then thinning as it reaches higher. You watch the mug fill, the sound of pouring quiet but clear, like a tiny, private waterfall. When the mug is full enough, you set the pan back on the stove and place the spoon in the sink. The mug sits on the counter, a little pool of warmth, steam twisting and lifting in slow, delicate strands. You rest your hands lightly on either side of it, feeling the warmth gathering in the ceramic. After a few breaths, you lift the mug, fingers curling around the handle with one hand and supporting the base with the other. The heat seeps into your palms, spreading into your fingers and then up your wrists. It's a gentle, steady warmth, the kind that invites you to hold on, to stay. You take one small step back from the counter, then another, moving carefully so the liquid stays calm inside the cup. The heater hums in the background. The rain continues its patter on shingles and glass. The distant shore breathes in its slow, deep rhythm. On your way back toward the couch, you pause by the window. The stones along the sill are quiet in their new arrangement. The sea glass catching the faintest color from the lamp, the postcard holding its place. The mug in your hands feels like part of that same simple care, another small thing set right for the night. You lift the mug near your face and breathe in. The steam carries the apple and spice straight to you, warm and sweet, filling the space just in front of you. You close your eyes for a moment and let your breath move in and out through your nose. When you take the first sip, you do it carefully. The cider touches your lips, then your tongue, warm but not too hot. It flows down your throat in a smooth line, leaving behind a gentle heat that spreads through your chest and into your shoulders. You can feel your jaw soften, your neck loosen another small degree. You sit down on the couch again, this time sinking a little deeper. The cushions welcome you as if they've been waiting. You tuck one foot under the other leg, letting your body find a simple, comfortable shape. The mug rests in both hands now, centered in your lap, a small, glowing warmth you can return to again and again. Around you, the kitchen settles into a quieter state. The burner is off, the pan cooling. The faint tick of contraction comes and goes like soft punctuation. The refrigerator hums steadily, a background presence you barely notice unless you listen for it. You take another sip, smaller this time, letting the taste linger. The flavor is familiar now, but each mouthful feels like its own little moment, a small, self-contained comfort. The warmth inside you deepens, reaching further down into your belly, radiating outward. Outside, another long wave comes in. You can hear it fold along the shore, a low, embracing sound that seems to match the warmth spreading through you. The horn calls again in the distance, slow and sure, then fades, leaving the room resting in its own soft silence. You sit with the mug until the steam thins and the surface cools. Each sip becomes less about heat and more about the simple act of bringing the cup to your lips. The repetition is soothing lift, sip, rest, lift, sip, rest. With every small motion, your body seems to understand that the day's pace is gone. What's left is this slower rhythm, breath, warmth, the sound of rain, the hush of the surf, the weight of the mug in your hands. By the time the cider is nearly gone, the room feels wrapped in a quiet that has settled into all its corners. Light from the lamp glows gently on wood and fabric, on the curve of the mug, on the stones at the window. You rest your hands around the empty cup for a moment longer, feeling the last traces of warmth in the ceramic, letting the comfort of this simple ritual soak all the way in. You keep your hands around the cooled mug a little longer, fingers curved gently, thumbs resting along the rim. The last hint of warmth has mostly faded from the ceramic, but the shape of it still feels right in your palms, as if your hands remember the heat even after it's gone. You notice how quiet your breathing has become. Inhale, soft and low. Exhale, even softer. It feels as if the whole room is breathing with you, its own slow tide rising and falling in time with your chest. A small thought drifts through. You could get up, you could rinse the mug, tidy the counter, check what time it is. It floats in like a whisper, familiar and gentle. Another part of you answers, just as quietly, not yet. You don't say it out loud. You don't need to. The answer arrives as a feeling more than a sentence, a simple sense that sitting here a little longer is allowed. The couch supports you fully, the cushion under your thighs, the back meeting your spine in a way that asks nothing from you. You let your head rest against the cushion behind you. The fabric is soft, and there's a tiny give before it settles under your weight. Your neck relaxes gradually, like a rope uncoiling one loop at a time. The muscles that usually hold you upright through traffic lights and doorways and long lines seem to understand that tonight they can loosen. You listen, not for anything in particular, just to notice what's already there. The heater in the corner hums in a low, even tone, like a distant engine idling calmly somewhere far off. The rain on the roof has settled into a steady pattern now, no big changes, just constant, fine drops tapping and sliding, stitching the night together. Under all of it, the shoreline keeps its deep, quiet presence. A swell rises. The sound grows just a little, then softens as the water folds against sand and stone. There's a hush in the moment after, as if the world is briefly holding its breath. Then another wave begins. You think, this is what you came for. The words are small, almost weightless, but they land somewhere steady inside you. Not a big declaration, just a recognition. You didn't come here for projects or plans. You came for the sound of water in the dark, for the way your shoulders drop when there's nothing else you have to do. Your gaze drifts toward the window. You don't need to focus on anything. You let your eyes rest in the middle distance, where the reflection of the room blends with the darkness outside. The faint line of the deck railing, the dim suggestion of trees, the glossy band of the sill with its quiet row of stones. All of it sits together in one soft, overlapping image. A gentle thought tugs at the edge of your mind. You could think through the next week, sort it out, piece by piece, while you sit here. You answer it the way you might reassure a child. Later, not now. The thought leans once against your attention, then drifts off again. There's nothing pushing behind it, no urgency. You feel the small relief of choosing, for this stretch of time, not to turn toward lists and schedules. You shift slightly, easing your back more firmly into the couch. Fabric brushes your clothing with a quiet, familiar sound. The blanket folded at your side is within reach. You draw it over your legs slowly, feeling the weight of it settle across your thighs and knees. The fibers cool at first, then warming with your body heat. A whisper of worry tries again in another form. What if you forget something important? You breathe in gently, and your answer arrives on the exhale. If it matters, it will still be there tomorrow. Again, you don't need to speak the words. The feeling is enough. The night doesn't ask you to perform. It doesn't test you. It only offers its rhythm, rain and surf and distant horn, and waits to see if you'll let yourself rest inside it. Your fingers uncurl from the mug and rest loosely along your legs. Without noticing when it happens, your hands begin to lie more heavily, as if gravity has subtly deepened. Your eyelids feel softer at the edges. When you blink, the movement is slower, more deliberate. The lamp throws a warm circle across the table and a softer wash across the floor. You follow the line of light with your eyes, watching how it fades into the darker corners. Every place the light touches seems calm and unhurried. The grain of the wood, the edges of the rug, the curve of the mug's handle where it now rests on the table. A soft suggestion rises. You picture the short row of spines on the nearby shelf, but the idea of taking one down feels like reaching too far into the world. Not in a bad way, just more than you want right now. You let the thought sit beside you for a moment, then it quietly takes a step back. You return to your breath. In, out. No counting, no technique, just the simple awareness that air comes and goes, and you don't have to manage it. The sound of the waves, layered with the rain, begins to feel like an outer version of that same rhythm, the room's lungs moving in time with yours. Outside, the horn calls once more. The low note hangs in the air longer than usual, as if stretching before it settles. It reaches you through the walls and the glass, touches the edges of your awareness, and drifts on. You think, very softly, you're here. Just that. No extra words. You're here, on this couch, in this small cabin near the water, with the night wrapped around the walls and no one needing anything from you. The thought feels like a quiet hand on your shoulder, steady and kind. You let your eyes close for a few breaths, not to sleep yet, just to feel what it's like to sit in the dark behind your eyelids while the room carries on. You can still hear the rain, the heater, the surf. You can feel the blanket on your legs, the cushion under your hips, the slight heaviness of your hands. Everything continues without your eyes needing to track it. When you open them again, the scene hasn't changed, but it feels a little softer, as if the edges of objects have grown less important than the way the space between them feels. The sill still holds its ordered line of stones. The glass still reflects the lamp and the curve of the room. The card at the window stands its quiet watch. The voice of the day, the one that usually nudges you with small reminders and questions, has grown very quiet. In its place is something else more like a low, reassuring murmur that doesn't use words at all. It sounds like waves turning in the dark, like rain moving across a rooftop, like a heater's sleepily consistent hum. You rest in that for a while, not needing to add anything, not needing to answer anyone, not even yourself. The night has its own language, and you are already inside it. Your gaze returns to the window, drawn by a small glimmer at the edge of the lamplight. The little piece of sea glass near the center of the sill catches the glow and holds it, turning it into a soft, muted color somewhere between pale green and blue. It looks almost like a tiny pond in the middle of the stones, lit from within. You feel a quiet impulse to stand, not urgent, just a gentle pull. You slide the blanket aside and rise slowly, the couch releasing you with that familiar soft exhale. Your bare feet find the rug, then the cool boards, and you walk the few steps to the window. Up close, the sea glass seems even softer. The lamp behind you sends a faint stripe of light through it, so that one edge glows a little brighter than the rest. The surrounding stones sit calmly in their gentle curve, the trio in the corner holding their small formation. The postcard leans back against the frame, its lighthouse standing over a faded stretch of water and sky. You rest your fingertips lightly on the sill, then let one hand drift toward the sea glass. You pick it up with your thumb and first finger. Its surface is cool, the edges rounded in that way only time and water can make. You turn it over once, then again. It nestles easily into the small hollow of your palm when you let it rest there. Holding it brings back the remembered feel of another piece. From another shore, you see yourself walking along a beach on a different day, not as dark as this one. The sky, a gentle gray with a brighter band along the horizon. The air was cool then too, maybe a little warmer, but still the kind that encouraged sleeves and pockets and long, unhurried steps. You remember the texture of the sand under your shoes, firm near the waterline, softer, higher up, with driftwood logs scattered in long, quiet lines. Gulls moved up and down the shore, not loudly, just part of the distant background. The waves that day had the same steady rhythm as tonight, rising and folding with that low, cushioned sound that seems to smooth out the spaces inside your thoughts. Your eyes in that memory were tuned to small things, bits of shell, shards of stone, glints of glass half buried in the sand. You see your hand reaching down, brushing aside a thin layer of grit to reveal a piece of glass tumbled almost completely smooth, the sunlight catching it just enough to show its muted color. You remember the simple satisfaction of rinsing it in a shallow pool, watching the sand run away as water made it briefly brighter. The piece in your palm now feels like a cousin to that one, not necessarily the same, not needing to be, but part of the same quiet family of objects shaped by tide and time. You rub your thumb along its frosted surface, feeling that familiar matte softness, the tiny imperfections, the faint ridges where it once had sharper corners, All speak in a language your fingertips understand without translation. Your gaze moves to the postcard. Its edges are a little frayed, corners softened, colors mellowed. The lighthouse on the front stands on a rocky point, light hinted at in a small, bright window near the top. The sky behind it is overcast but calm, sea stretching out in a wide, pale band beneath. You leave the sea glass resting in your palm and reach for the card with your other hand, lifting it carefully away from the frame. The stone that held it in place rolls back a fraction of an inch, making a faint tick against the sill. The surface of the card is smooth in some places, velvety in others, where fingers have brushed it over and over. Turning it toward you, you feel the slight give of the paper, sturdy enough to have traveled, soft enough to remember every bend. Another memory unfolds, as gentle as the first. You see yourself standing in a small coastal shop, shelves lined with cards and maps and simple souvenirs. A bell over the door had chimed when you came in, a sound that quickly blended into the soft murmur of quiet voices and the rustle of paper being handled with care. You remember flipping through a rack of postcards, each one holding its own small window onto a piece of shoreline sea stacks, headlands, tide pools, stretches of beach at low tide. Some cards were glossy and bright. Others, like the one you hold now, had a muted, almost painted quality, as if they'd already been softened by memory before anyone even wrote on them. Back then, you held one of those cards in your hand, feeling its small, precise rectangle. You thought of someone who might like to see this place, or at least a picture of it. Maybe you bought it, maybe you didn't. The details blur a little, but the feeling remains. That quiet act of choosing one small image to send a bit of the coast outward into someone else's day. The card in your hand now carries its own small history. You turn it briefly to look at the back, seeing the rounded loops of a message, the partly faded ink, the short line of a greeting that doesn't need to be read carefully to be understood. Someone, sometime, wanted this view to reach another person. You turn the card face out again and look at the lighthouse. The tiny painted water at its base seems to move in your imagination, lifting and dropping against the rocks. The light high in the tower feels steady, not dramatic or urgent, just persistent, a quiet promise that something is keeping watch along a misty stretch of coastline. You lower your gaze to the sea glass in your palm, then to the arranged stones on the sill. The memory of the earlier beach walk, the later shop, the choosing of small objects that carried the feeling of the shore, all of it sits gently beside the present moment. None of it pulls you away from the cabin. Instead, it feels like a long, low echo, connecting this night to other days when the sound of waves and the scent of salt were the background to your thoughts. You set the postcard back where it was, leaning it carefully against the frame, adjusting it with a fingertip so it stands straight. The stone nudges forward again to support its lower edge, returning to its quiet task. The lighthouse faces outward once more, watching over the dark beyond the glass. You hold the sea glass up near the window now, letting the cooler light from outside mix with the lamp's warm glow. For a moment, the piece seems to gather, both one side touched by the cozy interior light, the other by the soft, colorless wash of the night. It becomes a tiny meeting place between indoors and out, between memory and the present. Then you lower your hand and set the glass back in its place among the stones. You let it rest a little closer to the postcard than before, a small shift that feels right without needing an explanation. It catches the lamplight again, this time at a slightly different angle, deepening its color by a shade. Your fingers trace lightly along the line of stones, not rearranging them now, just acknowledging their cool, steady presence. Each one is ordinary, yet the way they sit together on the sill makes them something more, markers of small attention, quiet evidence that you took the time to place them. The memories they stirred settle back into the room with you, not as sharp images now, but as a soft sense of continuity. Other walks, other shorelines, other small objects chosen and carried home. You feel a gentle gratitude for each of those moments and for the way they seem to meet here, tonight, in this simple arrangement at the window. Outside, the rain has grown finer, almost mist-like, its sound softened to a gentle sheen across the roof. The waves keep their slow, even pace, folding against the unseen shore and sliding back again. The horn out on the dark water calls once more, its long, low note threading through the trees and past the glass, then dissolving into the quiet. You stand for another breath at the window, watching the faint reflections of the stones. Inside and outside blur together just a little, your face, the room, the hint of deck and trees, the suggestion of water beyond. When you turn away and walk back toward the couch, the memories don't vanish. They come with you, softened, like a favorite sweater warmed by your own body. You carry not only the sound of this night's surf, but also the remembered crunch of sand underfoot, the cool weight of sea glass in your hand on another day, the feeling of choosing a postcard from a spinning rack in a quiet little shop. You settle back into the cushions, draw the blanket over your legs again, and let your gaze rest once more in the gentle glow of the room. The stones at the window, the small piece of sea glass, and the upright card keep their calm watch together, part of the present, colored by the past, all of it folded gently into the hush of the late coastal night. You sit for a little while longer, watching the soft glow of the lamp and listening to the steady hush outside. The blanket lies over your legs, warm now, weight settled. The room feels gently full, as if every corner has been noticed at least once tonight. A faint, easy thought arrives. It might be time to close the evening a little more. Not to rush toward sleep, just to tidy the edges of the night so it can rest with you. You slide the blanket away from your knees and stand slowly. The couch releases you with its familiar, quiet sigh. Your feet find the rug, then the wood floor, cool and steady underneath. For a moment you stand there, feeling the line of your body from soles to shoulders, aware of how much less it's holding now than when you first came through the door. The empty mug waits on the table beside the couch, handle turned toward you as if it remembers your hand. You pick it up, fingers settling into the familiar curve. The ceramic still holds the faint ghost of earlier warmth, more a memory than a temperature now. You carry it carefully toward the sink, not because it needs such care, but because moving slowly feels right. In the kitchen, the small overhead light paints the counter in a soft, even layer. You turn the faucet just enough for a gentle stream, the water making a quiet, hollow music as it hits the basin. When you tilt the mug under it, the remaining thin line of cider rinses away, replaced by clean warmth. Your fingers circle the inside of the cup with a sponge or cloth, following the same path the drink traced before. The motion is slow, easy. There's no hurry to get to the end of the task. The task itself is part of the calm. When you're done, you set the mug upside down on the rack, hearing the tiny tap of ceramic on metal. It will dry while you sleep. You turn off the faucet and let the sudden quiet settle back into the room. The refrigerator hum feels a little more noticeable now, the heater's low murmur a steady line beneath it. Both sound comfortable, like part of the cabin's own breathing. A faint ring of moisture on the counter catches your eye, just a small mark where the mug once rested. You take a folded dish towel and lay it over the spot, pressing lightly. The fabric drinks in the damp, leaving the surface smooth and dry. You fold the towel back onto the oven handle, edges roughly aligned. No need for perfect lines. You glance around the kitchen. The bottle of cider is back in its place. The pan is rinsed and set to dry. The spoons and utensils sit where they belong. This little corner of the room has stepped quietly back into its simple order. On your way back to the couch, you pause near the door. Your shoes rest neatly where you left them, lined up beside each other on the mat. Your jacket hangs from its hook, sleeves relaxed, pockets empty. You place a hand briefly against the door, feeling the solid weight of it under your palm. The latch is firmly set. The wood is cool, carrying a hint of the damp outside. You whisper a small thank you, not with your voice, but in the way your hand lingers there for a breath. Thank you for the barrier between night air and this warm room. Thank you for the simple feeling of being inside. Back at the couch, you lift the blanket and give it a slow, gentle shake, enough to let the wrinkles fall away. The fabric flutters softly, catching the lamplight as it opens. When you fold it over the back of the couch, the weight settles evenly, one corner hanging a little lower than the others. It looks comfortably at ease, ready for tomorrow's first reach. Your gaze drifts toward the window again. The sill holds its quiet arrangement of stones, the small piece of sea glass among them, the old card leaning calmly against the frame. You step closer, drawn by the soft sheen of light on the curved shapes. You don't need to move anything now. Your fingertips hover just above the line of stones, then come to rest on the wood instead. The arrangement feels complete enough for tonight. The small shift you made earlier, the placement of each piece, has settled into the room's rhythm. You let your eyes travel slowly from one end of the row to the other, then to the trio in the corner, then to the card standing behind. Another wave rolls in outside, low and steady. The sound reaches you through the glass and the walls, folding into the soft rush of rain. For a moment, you imagine the stones on the sill as tiny echoes of the shore beyond, solid, quiet, holding their places while water moves endlessly past. You step back, letting the window keep its watch. The lamp near the couch seems a little bright now for this late hour. You walk over and rest your fingers on its switch or dimmer, pausing just before you turn it. The room has been kind to you tonight, giving you space to arrive, to breathe, to work through small, gentle actions. In that brief pause, you feel a wave of gratitude, not dramatic, just a warm, spreading sense of appreciation. For the roof overhead, for the steady hum of the heater, for the softness of the couch and the sturdy lines of the floorboards, for the sound of waves and the quiet order of stones and glass at the window. You lower the light. The change is gradual if you can manage it, the glow softening, edges of shadows growing smoother, corners of the room folding into gentle darkness. If the lamp only has 2 settings, the click from bright to low is small and final enough. The remaining light gathers in a tighter circle, centered around the couch and part of the table, leaving the rest of the space in a deeper, restful shade. The kitchen overhead light goes off next, with a small flip or press. Instantly, that part of the room joins the quiet, its outlines now defined mostly by what the lamp can reach. The sink, the counter, the stove, all still present, but unobtrusive, no longer asking for your attention. The hallway to the bedroom holds its own smaller glow, from a simple fixture or a bedside lamp already on in the next room. The light down there is softer still, like a path drawn with a gentle hand, inviting you to follow when you're ready. You stand for a moment in the half-dim living area, feeling the way the shadows have thickened. The sounds outside seem closer now that the brightness has dropped, the surf more intimate, the rain more audible on the roof and the glass. The distant horn, when it calls, feels less far away, its low note slipping easily into the softened interior. You take a slow breath, filling your lungs, letting the air expand your ribs just a little. On the exhale, your shoulders sink lower, your arms feeling pleasantly heavy at your sides. The night is well underway now. The micro-task at the window is finished. The kitchen is at rest. The living room has shifted from welcoming to quietly watchful. A sense of completion, gentle and non-demanding, settles over you. The space around you feels like it has been thanked and cared for. Each small action tonight a way of saying, I see you, I'm glad you're here. You turn toward the hallway and begin to walk. Steps slow and light on the wooden floor, moving deeper into the quiet part of the night. The hallway is short, but in this lowered light it feels like its own soft passage. Your feet move from board to board, each one giving the faintest creak beneath your weight. The bedroom door stands slightly open, a muted glow spilling out around its edges, gently inviting. You nudge the door wider with your fingertips. The room inside is simple and calm. A small lamp on the bedside table casts a pool of warm light over the bed, the top of the nightstand, and a bit of the wall. The rest of the space is touched only lightly by that glow. The bed waits against one wall, quilt smoothed, pillows propped. The quilt's pattern is modest and quiet, maybe stripes or small squares in colors, softened by washing. The pillowcases are plain, fabric showing the slightest texture where the light hits. Sheets lie tucked beneath, their edges folded neatly over the top of the blanket near the pillows. You step closer, feeling the floor cool under your socks. When you press a hand lightly into the mattress, it yields and then supports, neither too firm nor too soft. You smooth your palm over the quilt as if greeting an old friend, the fabric cool to the touch at first, then warmer where your hand lingers. There's a small chair in one corner or a simple hook on the wall where you lay out what you'll sleep in, soft shirt, comfortable pants, or whatever you prefer. The fabric feels gentle under your fingers, lighter than your day clothes, less structured, made for resting instead of moving through tasks. As you change, you move slowly, unhurried. One sleeve slides off your arm, then the other. The air brushes your skin, a little cooler than it was beneath your layers, but not unfriendly. The room is warm enough to keep the chill from biting, and the knowledge of the waiting bed makes even the brief coolness feel like part of the transition. The softer fabrics replace the day's clothes, brushing your skin with a different kind of weight. Waistbands sit more loosely, seams gentler, no tight collars or laces. Your body seems to recognize these textures as signals this is what you wear when nothing more is required of you. You place your folded day clothes on the chair or hook, stacked in a small, simple pile. Shoes remain by the door, out of the way, their job done for today. The room holds only what it needs: bed, table, lamp, perhaps a dresser, perhaps a small rug by the side of the bed. Nothing extra presses in on your senses. The bedroom window draws your attention next. You step toward it and lay your hand on the frame, feeling the faint cool that comes from the night outside. The glass shows you a dim reflection, the lamp behind you, the outline of the bed, a suggestion of your own shape, and beyond that, only darkness and the faintest hints of trees and sky. You consider the air outside. It's cool and damp, but not harsh. You decide to crack the window just a little, enough to let the night breathe into the room. The latch shifts with a soft sound as you lift it. The sash moves up by an inch or two, making a small opening. Immediately, a thin ribbon of colder air brushes your hand, then your cheek. It carries salt and wet earth and the distant, steady scent of the sea. The sound of the surf grows clearer, just a touch, as if a layer of fabric between you and the shoreline has been folded back. You stand there for a moment, eyes half closed, letting that narrow stream of night air move past you. It's cool without being cutting, the kind of chill that makes the promise of blankets even more appealing. After another breath or two, you lower the shade or pull the curtain mostly closed, leaving a small gap where the air can still pass but the light remains gentle. Turning back to the bed, you fold the quilt down from the pillows, exposing the sheet beneath. You slide your hand across it, feeling the smoothness, the slight cool touch that is so particular to clean cotton. It's a cool that invites warmth rather than resisting it. You sit on the edge of the mattress, letting your weight settle slowly. The bed dips under you and then holds steady. Your feet rest on the rug or the floor, your toes curling slightly into the fibers or against the wood. For a moment you just sit there, upright but relaxed, feeling how different this posture is from the one you had on the couch, a little more focused, like the last gentle step before lying down. You lean forward, elbows on your knees, and take another slow breath. In, out. The air carries faint apple from earlier, a thread of salt, a hint of wood and fabric and clean laundry. The sounds are softer here but still present. The hush of the waves, the tap of rain, the low hum of the heater down the hall. When you're ready, you ease yourself under the covers, one leg, then the other. The sheet and quilt come up over you, settling across your legs, your hips, your abdomen. The fabric molds to your body, the weight light but reassuring. The coolness gives way quickly to shared warmth, your own heat filling the small space between you and the bedding. You adjust your position with small movements, hips a little to one side, shoulders slightly shifted, head finding its place on the pillow. The pillow gives under your weight, cradling the curve of your neck, supporting your head without pushing it too high. You feel the back of your skull sink in a little, then stop. Your hands find their spots, one resting on your stomach, the other along your side or under the edge of the pillow. Fingers relax, no longer curled or ready to reach for anything. Your feet stretch out, toes brushing against the end of the bed, then settling a fraction back. The blanket holds the warmth gathering around you. The small opening in the window lets in just enough cool air to keep the room from feeling stuffy. It trickles in, mixes with the gentle heat you've built up, and slips away again, carrying your exhale out into the night. You let your attention drift to your breath once more. You don't need to change it, you only notice it. The slight lift of your chest, the slow fall, the way the fabric over your ribs moves a little with each cycle. Outside, the surf continues its tireless, even work. A swell forms in the dark. The sound of its approach grows only a little before it folds onto the shore, a low, padded noise that spreads along the beach and then fades. The next swell follows, and the next, each one like a slow heartbeat in the distance. The rain eases and then returns, varying only in subtle ways. Sometimes you hear individual drops against the window. Sometimes it becomes more of a gentle hiss on the roof, a single, continuous texture. Every change is small, unthreatening, like different verses of the same quiet song. Farther out, the horn calls again, its long, low note threading through the damp air. It reaches your slightly open window, slips between curtain and frame, and enters the room, softened but still sure of itself. The sound lingers for a breath, then lets go, the silence after it, feeling deep and kind. Your body understands that the day is fully over now. Tasks have been set aside. Objects are where they need to be. The little arrangement at the window is in place. The kitchen is calm. The living room has dimmed. Here, in this bed, you are held by familiar things: cotton and pillow, the steady mattress beneath, the weight of the quilt above. You feel heaviness growing in your limbs, not in a burdensome way, but in the way of something sinking naturally into support. Your shoulders relax deeper into the mattress. Your jaw loosens. Muscles in your face soften around your eyes and mouth. Even your fingers seem to grow heavier, resting fully where they lie. You blink slowly a few times, eyelids drifting lower with each pass. The room beyond the small circle of lamplight grows softer, then softer still, as if it's gradually stepping back, happy to keep watch from the edges. When you're ready, you reach toward the bedside lamp. Your fingers find the switch or the base by touch alone. There's a small click or a gentle turn. The light withdraws, leaving behind only the faintest glow from somewhere distant the hallway, a sliver around the curtain, a seam of light along the door. In the near darkness, the sounds come forward a little more. The shore's endless exhale, the fine patter of rain, the occasional low call of the horn, the quiet tick of some cooling surface in the house. You lie there, feeling your body supported, breath by breath, as the night settles fully around you. There is nothing left you need to do, nothing you need to hold up, just the gentle meeting of your own slow breathing with the soft, persistent music of the coastal night. In the dark, with the covers gathered around you and the faint, cool thread of night air moving through the cracked window, your thoughts loosen into softer shapes. The room is almost entirely shadow now, but it doesn't feel empty. It feels like a small, warm shell with the sea pressed gently against its outer walls. You listen to your breath and the shore at the same time. Inhale, the tide moves in. Exhale, the tide slips back. The rhythm is so steady that your mind starts to follow it without effort, drifting into simple pictures carried on the sound. You see, in your inner gaze, a buoy riding the dark water. Its shape is barely visible, but you can feel it more than see it. Metal frame, small tower, the soft nod and lift as each swell passes underneath. A bell hangs beneath the structure, catching now and then on a rising wave. Its note is soft, lower than the horns, chiming gently as it rocks. Around it, fog lies close to the surface of the sea, a pale gray veil that blurs the horizon. The buoy moves up, then down, always returning to its quiet center. Closer to shore, in that same inner picture, the tide breathes over wet sand. Water glides in, covering the rippled surface with a thin, shining layer. It pauses for a heartbeat, reflecting whatever faint light reaches it, the glow from distant windows, the hidden moon behind clouds, the soft smear of a buoy's blink. Then the water retreats, leaving behind small, curved lines where it has combed the sand. In your mind, you watch this happen again and again, water smoothing, then slipping back, nothing hurried, nothing urgent. Your awareness floats a little higher, to the line of dark pines that hold the coastline. In your imagination, their branches carry tiny beads of moisture that catch faint light and then return to shadow. The trunks stand steady, their roots sunk deep into damp soil and stone. Mist curls between them, thin and quiet, wrapping the lower branches in a soft, shifting band. When a breath of wind passes through, the branches stir just enough to whisper, then rest again. Your breath in the bed matches that slow movement. Chest lifts, falls. The blankets feel heavier now in a comforting way, like a gentle hand laid over you. The cool thread of air at the window brushes your cheek and forehead, then blends into the warmth around your shoulders. In the next quiet image that forms, you're looking at the cabin from a little distance, as if you're hovering under the low clouds just above the roofline. The building is a small, steady square of warmth against the darker trees. Light no longer spills out broadly, but a soft glow seems to linger behind the curtains, the kind that stays even after lamps are switched off, carried in the memory of the windows. Rain taps at the roof and slides down the shingles in thin, silver paths. The cabin doesn't resist it. It simply sheds the water again and again, like a creature that has always lived by the sea. Your attention drifts inward, through the walls, to the main room. In your mind's eye, you see the window and the sill you tended earlier. The stones rest exactly where you placed them, a gentle curve along the base of the glass, with the small trio near the corner. Between them, the piece of sea glass still catches what little light remains, but it is softer now, more muted, as if it has decided to glow only for itself. You imagine that piece warmed slightly by the air in the cabin, no longer purely cool from the outside, but holding a trace of the room's comfort. Its color deepens by a shade in your thoughts, the pale, green-blue, becoming something a little richer, like water seen later in the evening, after your eyes have adjusted to the dimness. The edges remain rounded and kind, every side smoothed. Beside it, the card stands where you left it, leaning against the frame. In your inner picture, the lighthouse on its front is no longer entirely still. It seems to give off a faint suggestion of rotation, a tiny sweep of light that turns slowly across a painted sea. The beam doesn't cut or pierce. It glides, as if caressing the horizon, checking gently on each section of water in turn. You see that imagined light brush over the buoy you pictured earlier, then drift on, then return. The buoy answers with a quiet nod on the swell, its bell giving a soft chime that only the nearby fog hears. The lighthouse in the card and the buoy out at sea feel connected, both keeping a calm, patient watch through the night. Back on the sill, in your thoughts, the stones join that watch in their own way. They don't shine or move, but their very arrangement is a kind of steady presence, a low, rounded line that says, "This is where we will rest." The trio in the corner holds its simple, balanced shape, like three small notes at the end of a song. The cabin, in your imagined view, becomes a little island of warmth and breath among tall trees and slow tide. The arrangement at the window is part of that island now, woven into its quiet. The sea glass and the card, once just found and placed objects, now feel like familiar companions who have settled into their places for the night. They have nothing more to ask of you. Your awareness returns more fully to your body in the bed, The pillow supports the curve of your neck. The mattress holds your weight. The blanket presses gently over your legs and chest. Behind your closed eyes, the images linger. Buoy nodding in the swell, fog leaning close over the water, trees dark and steady, small lights tending their circles, stones and glass and paper keeping a soft vigil at the window. Outside the real window, the surf continues its slow turning, and the rain threads quietly through the darkness. The arrangement you made earlier sits in the main room just as you imagined it. Stones, sea glass, card, all at rest. They have accompanied you through the evening. From the first touch of your fingers on the windowsill to this moment of near sleep, and now they simply stay where they are, part of the cabin's gentle breathing through the night. You lie there, held by bed and blanket, while the pictures move more slowly and grow softer, like waves seen from deeper and deeper underwater, until they become only color and motion, and then only the feeling of being carried. The room around you is quiet and dim, shapes blurred into comfort. Cool night air slips in through the small opening at the window, touches your cheek, and then blends into the warmth gathered under the covers. Your body is heavy in a way that feels safe. The mattress holds all of that weight without question. The pillow supports your head. Fabric rests gently over your shoulders and hips, settling wherever you've let yourself finally be still. Your breath moves on its own, slow and easy. Inhale, the slight rise of your chest. Exhale, the gentle fall. Each cycle takes a little more of the day with it as it goes. You don't have to guide it. You only ride along. Beyond the walls, waves keep folding in and drifting back, their sound low and even, the same from moment to moment. Rain taps softly on roof and glass, 1,000 tiny touches that blur into one comforting murmur. Somewhere out in the dark, the horn sends another slow note across the water, then rests. Inside, everything that needed to be done has been done. Stones rest on the sill. The small piece of glass and the quiet card stand their easy watch. The kitchen is in order. The room you left behind is calm. This room is calm. You feel a simple gratitude spreading through your chest for the roof above you, for the gentle weight of the blankets, for the air that fills your lungs without demanding anything in return, for the steady, familiar sound of the sea close by. Your thoughts thin out, like mist lifting from the shore. What remains is warmth and breath and the sense of being held in a small, safe space while the night keeps watch outside. You follow one more slow inhale all the way in and then let it go, long and easy, like a soft exhale drifting out toward the dark, quiet water.